The Finder starts this morning and says probe clears Bust MD, a new committee to probe cause of contamination. That's a story that almost every newspaper this morning has it. Daily Guide, Daily Graphic, Ghanaian Times, all of them have that story. And then Ghana-China ties must transform lives of Ghanaians. And AMA, Environmental Health Officers, issue sermons to Achimota residents. The Daily Guide, BNI clears Bust over dirty oil deal. Bamia defends $15 billion Chinese loan. 17 killed in Galamsey pit. That's the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide story. The Daily Statesman says NPP gives toll booth jobs to disabled. That story, the Bust story, is also covered. Bust MD cleared of wrongdoing, and Wayme Hot and faces AG for oral examination. The Independent says Ghana, Ethiopia agree to strengthen bilateral ties. Those are some of the newspapers I have with me this morning. My guest to do the talking, to my extreme left, is a lecturer at the University of Education, with Dr. Ahmed Chinapor. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Grateful for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for joining us. And then the founder of the Youth Enterprise Development Network, Kasisi Ricky Pepe, is also here with me. Good morning, Ricky.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
I'm fine.
Thanks so much for your time. And then the group president of Wealth Vision Financial Services Limited, Mr. David Watkins, is also here. Good morning, too. Thanks so much for your Wednesday morning. Right, gentlemen, this is a story we cannot simply fail to look at, the issue of the Bust contaminated fuel, hoping it will go away one day. But yesterday's biggest story that is being carried on this morning is that the man at the center of the whole thing is being cleared. The energy minister says that what happened is not new. It has always happened at Bust, and it's been sold, according to him, several contaminated fuel. Latest of that is being sold by previous MDs. We're told again by the energy minister that doing businesses with a company that is not licensed is not new. He said Bust has been doing that. Several other issues were raised. Dr. Chinapor, let me start with you. The energy minister simply said that the man has not done anything wrong because all that has happened is not new. Bust has sold contaminated fuel to unlicensed companies. Bust has, on several occasions, also dealt with companies that are not licensed. And so he thinks that nothing is wrong, and that whatever was done by BNI. And so the committee that was set up perhaps will have to look at its mode of operation once again. That's from the energy minister. You are convinced from what he told the public, and would that put a finality to this whole Bust issue?
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and to my colleagues. I think it's quite an interesting story. Interesting story in the sense that I think you started this discussion by indicating that will this story ever end? And I think it's a story that most Ghanaians are very interested in, and is taking some kind of a political undertone, in the sense that when this happened, if you remember very well, this issue came into the public domain as a result of an NGO called ASEP that brought it. And it got a lot of attraction because the opposition picked on it and even organized a press conference and gave it political declaration, in the sense that their argument was because of the actions of an individual, it meant the president was corrupt and the MPP as a party was corrupt. And when I heard that, I was a little bit worried, because I knew this issue was not going to be given a fair hearing, because any time that you have issues of this sort where it is given it's being politicized, then it becomes a little bit problematic. Right, if you realize, I mean, the minister speaking is saying that the MD is being cleared of any wrongdoing. And him giving that clearance is as a result of an investigation that was being conducted by BNI. If you remember, there was a committee that was formed by the minister, chaired by him, that was supposed to investigate this issue. And the BNI, based on their findings, which the minister has accepted, gives the man a free pass. A couple of questions needs to be asked. I mean, I don't doubt the integrity of the BNI. And mostly when you have state institutions of that sort, when they do investigations, in as much as they work within the ambit of the law, we always give them the benefit of that. But a couple of questions needs to be interrogated. One of them being, under whose instruction did the BNI conduct this investigation? I mean, was there a complaint being laid before the BNI? That's a question that needs to be asked. And I think this question is very important and extremely significant, especially within the spectrum of the committee that was being formed by what? By the minister. If you remember, there was a committee that was formed by the minister, chaired by the minister,
right,
which makes that committee extremely powerful and extremely important. Was BNI aware of this committee being in existence? And what made them to investigate? Was it the case that they did not trust this committee? You understand what I'm saying? And if BNI went ahead to what? Investigate the case, where the minister himself knew that he himself was investigating the case, because the committee was set up by him. He himself was investigating the case, and he sat on the committee. And he accepts the BNI finance. I'm not trying to say that the BNI finance is problematic, but I think there are a lot of issues that needs to be raised in terms of what the integrity of what the report. And that is why some people are saying that, look, this is a cooked up report. And I don't know whether it is true or not. But you see, the bottom line when it comes to this issue, it's not about the MD. It's not about boss. It's about what we as a people asked for in 2016. The good people of this country said that, look, corruption is something that we want to do away with. And we have a person in the person of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a person who has a track record in fighting corruption. So we are giving him the benefit of doubt to be able to fight corruption. And you know, corruption mostly are perception. So when the perception grows by acts of this nature, I would have wished that BNI should have waited, or even if there was a body that was supposed to investigate, maybe probably when this committee that was formed by Ajako, if he knew that, look, the BNI could have investigated the case and come out with what? The report that more or less will give us the truth. He shouldn't have formed the committee. And even look at the swiftness with which the BNI came out with what? Its findings. I mean, it's probably about a week. And if you remember, within this spectrum of this discussion, there are allegations against the former MD. What's his name? Right. That some 40 million Ghana dollars was transferred to Mohammed. What is the BNI doing about it? What is it doing about it? Why is it that it hasn't gone into investigate it to come up with a finance? Look, I have a problem with this report, honestly.
But, Mr. Waku, the Energy Minister says that BOST has all this while been dealing with companies that are not licensed, which is against the law. He justifies that and says because in the past, BOST dealt with companies that are not licensed, there's nothing wrong with BOST doing same now. This BNI is a member or part of the committee the minister set up to investigate these BOST issue. And yet, it comes out of the committee to do its own investigations and clears BOST of any wrongdoing. Are you convinced of what the minister said, that because there was an illegality in the past, we should continue engaging in illegality?
I'm really not convinced. And good morning once again, our cherished listeners. I think I have questions to ask. First and foremost, in response to your question, what the minister is saying, is that what our public procurement law says? If do two wrongdoing justify or considered to be a right thing, why was it that as a minister, he came to office and saw that boss has done some things in the past which was not correct? He never questioned it. But now there's an issue at stake and he's using the opportunity maybe to justify. Is there a justification that boss has been doing that and against the law, so we can continue doing that? If that is right, then we may have bigger problem which might be lying at BOST and nobody knows until something happens, then we continue to justify. Is that how we want to run this country? I don't think it's the right thing. The justification, what is the principle of value for money? This whole saga we're talking about, there are questions that are not answered. There are questions that everybody want to know answers to. As for freeing the MD or clearing the MD, I don't think it solved the problem. the contaminated oil that we're talking about, where is it? What quantity is available? What quantity has been sold? And these quantities, where are they located to? We are not getting answers to those things. Whether in the past there has been a sale of such oil to the public or wherever, it is not very clear what quantity and where it goes. So we want to know all these things. And the issue of the BNI, I have a bigger question. Is it the same BNI that operates under the past government that is giving the same report at this time? Because in the past government, any report or output that the BNI comes out with, the minority then questions the justification or the rightness of those reports. And today, the same name BNI coming out with reports, and the current minority is also questioning it. This tells us that there's something wrong with our system, whether our structures, our institutions are working right. Are we just working to please the government at any time, or we are working in the best interest of this country? If institutions such as BNI cannot be trusted for reports, that a whole parliament will be asking legitimate questions or will be showing concern, then what about ordinary Ghanaians like you and I? Where are we? Are we safe? Where are we going? Because we remember reports came from BNI, and it doesn't even meet the standard of the courts. The courts went ahead, pronounced judgment on issues. So what BNI is telling us today, is it the right information? Is it correct? Is it appropriate? Or are we just working to free individuals, leaving substantive issues for the whole public to be at risk? Because we are talking about oil today. Tomorrow it will be an ammunition, or it will be some attack on some part of this country. If we are not sure our institutions are working to protect us, then I'm afraid. And I know many people may also have the same fear. So I think the minister, the BNI, they might come out clearly and put out information that will put everybody at ease. Then we'll know that the government is working.
See, Ricky, let me put this same question to you, because Mr. Wache-Jacko said that committee that was to have investigated this, its work has been kind of reshaped. They're going to take a holistic look at the operations of BOST. Then this same man says that what's been happening in the past by way of contaminated fuel being sold is a regular thing. And yet he says the committee should go and look at the entire operations of BOST and clean it up. Are you convinced about these two seemingly contradictory stances of the minister?
Thank you very much, Bright. I'm going to start a bit before that. BNI, NPA, Claire, BOST, MD. I want us to manage our expectations. What I get from this heading and from the discussion under this heading is that the beleaguered MD is clear.
Right.
It is not to suggest that there has not been any improper behavior. Let us get that categorically clear. You see, the committee went out with specific allegations to deal with. That he may or may not be the owner of Moving Pina, that there may not have been an open tender, etc., and that he may have benefited, and for that matter, there's likely to be conflict of interest. So, as a general rule, committees or commissions go out with specific mandates. So do not let us confuse the fact that this person is supposed to be free with the fact that there may have been a problem. That's my first concern. The second thing is, why so much contaminated oil? And then we are told to rest easy on the matter because these things are not sold at the pumps. My brothers, we are in Ghana. I'm sure that at some point, a good amount of this oil would end up in the pumps. If you work in the field, out of the main urban areas, where you have these Gao fuel stations, and if you're unfortunate to arrive there and you run short of fuel, believe me, you will most likely be buying some of this contaminated oil. That's my second concern. My third concern, like my brother said, is that everything in this country has been so politicized that the real meat of issues are not discussed. I've said somewhere, and I hope I'm not taking for sacrilege, that if even Jesus arrived here one morning, they would ask whether he was wearing an NDC t-shirt or an MPP t-shirt. That is how divided, how polarized, and for that matter, how we often compromise discussions on very pertinent national issues. Now, for me, at the first glance, the minister's statement that they are going to investigate BOST, or not only investigate, but to streamline the operations of BOST, should normally be a matter of considerable joy. I cannot help but notice that this said minister, the last major appearance he did was he himself was under some sort of cloud. So he does not invoke confidence in me, unfortunately. I believe, and I hope that the matter is no more sub judice, I believe that the whole matter concerning his appointment was dealt as shabbily as this particular matter. And for that matter, there are still myriad questions on that issue. So for such a person who, in my estimation, whose appointment was not exactly transparent, to then fast forward appear to be so gung-ho about transparency and going in to look at the operations of BOST is not assuring. But again, my brother on my right said that, and I agree, that just because it's supposed to have happened under the previous regime does not make it right. You see, this equalization business has to stop at some point. Ghanaians are sick and tired of equalization. If even it happened under the NDC regime, was that right? Why do we have to license dealers in the first place? And then all of a sudden, huge amounts of oil manage to get contaminated. I'm getting the impression that there's the deliberate contamination of this oil so that it gets sold at ridiculously low prices to people who are not registered, and for that matter, you may not find the trail of the oil. One may even ask the question, is the oil actually contaminated? Or has it just been declared contaminated for the benefit of filling of packets? So like the two gentlemen here, I agree with them when they say that there are just too many unanswered questions. But do I have any optimism that these questions will be answered? No.
They will not be answered?
I doubt they will ever be answered.
Let me
Doc.
one or two things. I think first of all, it needs to be stated that when it comes to this issue, it's not about the personalities. It's about the system. I happen to have met Mr. Jakun at least once. He's a fine gentleman. There's no doubt about it. And I think he's competent at his job. When it comes to the criticism of the MD, it's not about the MD per se. It's just answers to these questions. It could be that he might have bad judgment. You understand what I'm saying? It could be that, yes, he had an interest and he was interested in getting into corrupt practices. It could be that, anything. That is why most of us were calling for an objective, transparent investigation. Objective, transparent investigation. I mean, nobody is interested, and I will say for the three of us, nobody is interested in the MD getting sacked. But what we are saying is that we need to have a system that works, a system that people have confidence in. You understand what I'm saying? The system that, as a people, we say that, look, we trust this system. But when you have a system whereby maybe the BNI, their report is right. Don't get me wrong. Maybe what they are saying is right. But the manner in which this was done, and that is why most of us are asking questions. Number one, who more or less asked the BNI to conduct the investigation, especially when the BNI member was sitting on the committee that was formed by what? The minister, the sector minister.
Right.
There was a member of the BNI sitting on the committee. Was the minister aware that the BNI was doing a parallel investigation? You understand what I'm saying? Was the minister aware that the BNI was doing a parallel investigation? And if he knew that the BNI was doing a parallel investigation, when he himself was investigating what the case, what did he say? Do you get my point? And finally, the swiftness and speed with which the BNI came out with these findings, especially when historically, they've not been that swift, raises a number of questions. And that is why some of us, are quite, skeptical about the authenticity and the truthfulness of this report. And for me, I see it as a charade. It's unfortunate.
So you're not convinced, Ricky?
He brings up something very critical: transparent, objective report. Is there ever going to be such a report? I do not say that there are no objective people in this country. I do not say that people cannot be transparent in their dealings. I'm saying that we are so jaundiced in our perception of people. So Dr. Abu Jinapo
Ahmed.
Sorry, I'm sure you get it. Ahmed, even in his family, he has been identified as A or B. I don't know where they put me yet. But the point is, who do we Ghanaians consider to be objective? Who do we consider to be transparent? Fast rewind. When we had this election committee, I said here, and I said everybody in this country has a political leaning. Either you are A, B, C, or D, or neutral, and even neutrality is a leaning. So not only is there a need, but we should get prepared to trust the people that are put on these committees. That is going to require a lot of confidence building, but we need to. And that's why I think that the independent prosecutor, which is a different matter, may just be storming a tea kettle, I'm told. If I'm getting it may just be
too cynical.
Is that what you're saying?
Because we will not trust the institution. You see, the issue
of optimism
based on nothing or years of jaundice is my problem. Today, Bright, you live here, and for some reason they just think that, okay, Bright is capable of being, let's say, managing director of
TV3.
Kwalugu Tomato Factory, for example. Then they are going to say, oh, so all the while Bright has been MPP. Meanwhile, when he was on this seat, you saw him as objective. My problem, again, is not the absence of objective or transparent or scrupulous people. My problem is that we have been so disappointed by the partisanship that it's going to take considerable effort for us to arrive at the day and say, okay, this one is fine. I'm waiting for that day.
Mr. Waku, wrap up on this one for me. So if we can't, the partisanship seem to be killing the very efforts we're making at resolving national issues. Can we deal with it? Can we ever deal with it?
I think that's a very big question.
Ricky is still waiting. I don't know if...
Yes, whether clearly our understanding of democracy is really working for us, and the role of parliament as well as our state agencies are really working objectively to grow this country. Because you always see that if we talk about this partisanship, it's clearly seen in parliament. You hardly see parliament agreeing on issues of national interest if it is not in a specific way. So to say, anyway, I don't want to say any specific direction, but if national issues like this, things that affect all of us, everybody here, we are crying or we are saying this thing because of two things. One, value for money for the state. And two, if this fuel happen to get into the market, it's going to affect us individually. If I buy that and put it in my car, and tomorrow my car got damaged, I will have personal problem. The emissions that is going to be transmitted is going to affect the whole public and all of us at risk. So why should we put partisans into decisions affecting all of us? And why should focus be on personalities than the issues at stake? We are not dealing with the issue. I don't know the mandate. I don't know, like my brother is saying, what BNI has investigated, why the minister should come out to clear the MD. The clearance, does it mean he's going back to office, or what are we looking at? What is the real issue? I don't know how we're going to do it if the partisan or the kind of democracy we are running is really helping this nation. In other parts, democracy, any government in question fight for the development of the state, irrespective of whatever policy you have, whatever party is in state. The first thing is the country. The first thing is the people. Why are we not doing that? Why do we make decisions just to make political gains? I think we have a bigger question to ask ourselves if the kind of democracy we run is going to lead us achieve this good result. I'm
grateful, Mr. Waku, there talking. Now, let's quickly look at this story on give me the Daily Heritage this morning. There's a story on VAT. The story says that the Ghana Revenue Authority has pointed out that the 3% flat rate VAT, which took effect on July 1, is restricted to importers, wholesalers, and retailers of taxable goods and does not cover manufacturers and service providers. Now, GRA is suggesting that the outfit will monitor the movement of businesses in the country for the next 2 to 3 weeks to compare the prices of goods. Should it go high, the GRA will halt the implementation of the rate. A key source at GRA, who did not want to be identified, further explained that if after monitoring the market, the authority realizes that the rate is causing more harm than good, then they will advise the policymakers, especially the Ministry of Finance, to reconsider its decision on the new VAT rate. Now, this is on the background that some market women, the Heritage spoke to yesterday, explained that the new policy would impose more hardships on Ghanaians as prices of goods are likely to go up. The women explained that after the wholesalers had been taxed with a 3% VAT rate, they would increase their goods in order to get their profits and also money to make up for the difference. They said, we're not ready to lose, but make profits. So the government should revisit the policy again, because at the end of the day, the end users are those who will have to pay the final VAT. So Ricky, let me start with you. The concerns, one of the key one is that even though it was 17% and it's been brought down to 3%, the market women are suggesting that this 3% will be moved from the wholesaler to the retailer and to the final consumer. So the final consumer would end up paying more, because at every point in the chain, the 3% will be charged, and it will add up to what the final consumer will pay.
Right, I can't help but go back to the days of Kumi Preto. I can't. I was a serious adult already then. And Nana Addo, our president.
What a serious adult means.
I mean, concerned with national issues.
Okay.
You know.
Part of the
yes. And our president Nana Addo rose to notoriety, positive notoriety, if you can so describe it, because he was seen as fighting for the common man, because VAT was an unholy invention by an unfeeling government. 2017. We are doing number tricks. So what comes out is 3%, as though it's a complete clean-off of the 17-point-something%, and that it has been replaced by 3%. So those of us who are not very literate in economic issues would normally take joy in the mention of 3%. But like the simple market women said, it's a facade. All of this is going to accumulate, and it's going to affect your and my pocket. But why do we even need to have things like that? It's because the government needs to raise income, revenue, in order to execute developmental plans. So I'm not going to be as blanket in my condemnation of the VAT as the Kumupreko enthusiast of that day. We really do need VAT. One thing I'm hoping for is that the people we elect into this country will either respect us and tell us the truth, or be honest and tell us the truth, or both. do not splash on the front pages at 3%. There are going to be people who are going to go up somewhere and they say, you go and do something and they give you an invoice and then you find a whole manner of things. What product are you going to buy that is not going to come from the wholesaler, except foodstuffs, most likely. In fact, not all foodstuffs, because those of you who can afford foreign imported foodstuffs, the products will have to come through a wholesaler before it arrives at you. Simply put, I'm not enthused about the 3%. I have not been tricked by the 3%. And that we should just brace ourselves for slightly harder times. I am only motivated by the fact that there will be much more revenue that will accrue to this. And I'm hoping that yet another miracle will happen, in which case this revenue will actually be used for the things that they are supposed to be used for.
I see. Doc, the Today newspaper story talks about the Beverage Producers Association. Its executive secretary is saying that they support the policy, but what they are worried about is the across-the-board implementation. Now, he is saying that, for instance, if you are the consumer, it means that you'll be charged twice or 3 times for the same product you're consuming. But here it says that the policy came into effect on the 1st of July. It carried out...
when was 1st of July?
That was Saturday. It carried out some survey and said that they didn't see any hikes in prices. So perhaps this assured us that we won't get any increases in prices.
Right. Let me concede by saying that when it comes to economic issues, I don't have that much of the impetus in dealing with it. Yes. But you see, the point is this whole discussion relative to taxes specifically, and VAT, as my brother Ricky made reference to, needs to be put in context. And I think it's very, very important and instructive within the context of our contemporary politics. That being, taxes was a major issue in the campaign slogan for the MPP. Because if you remember, the MPP, when they were in opposition, did indicate that Ghanaians were being overtaxed, and probably legitimately so. Because as we speak now, there's a report that shows that Ghana is the highest, the topmost country of high cost of living, the whole of Africa. So when the MPP said that, look, they were going to scrap most of these taxes, Ghanaians were what? Were very happy about it. The point is that we used to have a 17.5% tax. Is that right? The MPP has removed it, and they are replacing it with what? A 3% what tax. I think they need to be commended, at least, for more or less fulfilling a campaign promise of what? Of removing the 17.5%. That said, if you look at what is going on, what we are being told is that the manufacturer is going to be paying the 17.5%. That's number one. So that's exempted.
Manufacturing and services.
Manufacturers and services. So if I'm flying, it's a service. The 17.5% stays. If I go to buy a made in Ghana good, the 17.5% what stays. In addition to that, the wholesaler is going to pay 3%. So if you, like, let's say you produce this water, you are paying 3%. If I come to buy it from you, as a retailer, I'm also paying 3%.
And so you put your 3%
that makes 6%. Cumulatively, it makes what? 6%. So, and you know, in Ghana, we have a lot of, what do they call them? Small, petty traders. So they are all classified under what? The retail business. The reality on the ground is that, for me, and what was more promising and inspiring about the MPP campaign was widening the tax bracket. Widening the tax bracket. I believe the problem that we have in this country is not about what? The amount of tax we pay, but who pays the tax? And is the tax accounted for? You understand what I'm saying? That is the tax what? Accounted for. We have so many people in the informal sector who are more or less not what? Paying taxes. I want to see innovative means by which these people will be made to pay tax. It's just with the few who are in the formal sector who pays taxes. So if the GRA, right, the GRA says that they are going to check in the market to see if it will what? Lead to an increase in what? prices. And if it does, then they will withdraw it. I find it quite what? Unfortunate. Excuse me, it's very, very unfortunate and unprofessional. I mean, what are you talking? So what does it mean? That means you don't even have plans for the money. When you bring a tax, it means that the tax is supposed to accrue a certain amount of money.
Right.
So if you are being hypothetical by saying that, look, let's see if it will increase prices. If it does, then we'll bring it what? We'll pull it off. What it means is that you're going to lose some income if you pull it off. And it tells you that that tax in the first place is not necessary. And I can tell you for a fact that this thing is definitely going to increase what? Prices. So I think, in effect, the whole tax that is being introduced, I think it's quite problematic. Problematic in the sense that if you look at the commentary and the narrative that is what? Following it, relative to whether it should stay, I mean, I think it's very unfortunate. And you see, these things are right. The truth of the matter is that Ghanaians, look, let me tell you, Ghanaians are putting the NPP on a checklist. On a checklist. Each of the things that they said they will do, I want to see them do it. And I believe that if they're able to do it, it will inure to the developmental aspirations of this country. You understand what I'm saying? But when these things are coming up, these excuses, cumulatively, it builds into the mind of the people. And I don't think they need these kind of things.
I see. Mr. Waku, we saw, like Ricky referred to, Kumi Preko, we saw VAT at that time. They called to implement it. Then it was halted and brought back, and eventually we had it. The market women are suggesting that government should look at the policy again and come back. Perhaps if you had to advise government, you simply would say that they should hold on and come back again.
Yes, I think even the GRA, the GRA's comment about this implementation, and after the law coming to being for 1 day, and they've gone to market to do the assessment, and coming out that there's no problem, everybody is fine. I don't know who pays that, or who pays that 3% VAT on the first day, if the GRA has gone to collect anything like that, to know that people are not being stressed about it. And at the same time, they gave a clue that when we check and we realize people are not happy,
2 to 3 weeks,
we will advise the policy makers. I think if I am an opinion leader or market women, some people, I will start agitating. I'll just quickly mobilize my people and say, oh, we are not happy about the thing, so it should
withdraw
go.
It.
we should withdraw it. So that's a good advice as GRA is giving to the opinion leaders. But the fact, like my brothers are saying, about VAT or tax, VAT is one of the easiest tax any government will take, because it affects your consumption, and we are consuming every day, and it is attached to services as well as goods. So everywhere you pass, you seriously pay. And like Doc is rightly saying, taxes don't just come out because they must come. It is attached to budget as a revenue source. If the agitations come now and it's withdraw, where are you going to get
to fill the gap?
That's what you want to say. What provision have we made for that? So I think the lawmakers must really think through whatever policy they want to implement. If possible, pilot it, pass it through the test of time, and come out clearly and implement. And there are many many avenues of extending the tax net. We're talking about controlling inflation as well. The price increases that we are expected. We know once you increase VAT, every rational business person will transfer it to the consumer. And the consumers will realize that there's an increase in price. How persistent this will be will result in an inflationary whatever. Do we, the lawmakers, do they sit together to consider all this effect before coming out? What is the total effect on the decision? If not well thought through, I would advise that we go back, as always. Anytime there's an issue on increasing VAT, they go back, they withdraw, go back, think through, and when they come out, it works well. So I think as the policy advisors or makers, they should go back, think through very well. They shouldn't wait until the public start agitating before we correct the policies.
All right, I'm grateful. Ricky, you wanted to come in quickly. Okay, wrap up on this.
Doc said that one of the most positive aspects about the MPP campaign was to widen the tax.
The promise. I said
promise,
the promise.
promise.
Right. One of the most attractive promises.
Yes, promises. I am not at all enthused about that. You see, the problem is, what are you doing with the tax? And you mentioned that as well. I'm not going to, I hope I'm not taken for inciting people. But there is a case in court, everybody knows it, I cannot mention it because it's in court. And there are huge amounts of money that are apparently spirited away by people without any punishment. And then you are going to go out and widen the tax net and stifle the small businesses that are taking place. Until governments are accountable to the people for judicious and proper use of the funds, there is no moral or legitimate basis for widening any tax net. And I cannot wait for the day when these two major parties, which are having a ping-pong relationship with the Ghanaian people, will be replaced by a Macron-style movement.
That's a revolution.
I have a little problem with this.
We'll discuss that another time. It's not now.
All right, let's jump to this final story. We're just about some 6 more minutes. MPP gives toll jobs to disabled. Statesman has a story. Ghanaian Times has a story. I think Daily Graphic too has a story. We're told that some 74 persons, disabled, have been employed to operate some toll booths across the country. This is first part of the initiative to give toll booth management to the disabled, and it was launched at the Pobiman toll booth in the Greater Accra region by the Roads Ministry. We're told that about 32 toll booths will be manned by people with disability, a way of giving them jobs.
Are they going to be workers there?
Yes.
Or they are going to manage it?
They are workers there.
Yes.
They are the ones going to sit there and collect the tolls as the vehicles pass by. So they are not managing it.
They are not managing it. They are going to be workers.
There are calls for them to, if you read the story, the Federation is appreciative and says that the government should go on and perhaps give the management to them, perhaps to make more money. Mr. Oko, let me start with you. So finding jobs for unfortunate brothers and sisters, government is on the right track.
Yeah, I think even our labor law stipulates that at least a percent of every employer should consider employing our brothers and sisters who have some level of disability. And as it's always said, disability is not inability. And when you see our brothers on the streets, some of them are, no matter what form of the disability, you could realize that God in his own wisdom give a certain strength or make a way of them to be able to live a normal life as anybody else. So creating opportunity for them to work. And some of the pictures showing somebody sitting, collecting money, I think it's in the right direction. But in addition to that, we must put the necessary structure in place, the necessary security measures in place, so that definitely nobody take advantage of the situation, knowing that, oh, these people maybe cannot run or cannot do this, and so let me go and do any adverse thing on them. So once the structures are put very well, an opportunity is created for them, then the needed systems are put in place. Because if, for example, the toll booths are designed for somebody who is well fit to sit, and you are just now shifting it to somebody with disability, the needed provision by way of passage, the seating arrangement, and everything must also be put in place so that they are comfortable and they work to contribute to national development.
Right.
I agree with that.
Dr. Chinapa, I'm trying to read deep into the story. It looks like it is rather the management of the toll booth, because the president of the Federation, Mr. David Ofori Deborah, is saying that the toll booth management initiative that had been given to PWDs in the country is in the right direction. He said, for instance, the Federation facilitated recruitment and ensure that everyone has the information. Now, 250 applications were received. 72 were interviewed by the Federation. 172 were interviewed by the Federation. 74 had been taken. And he, however, appealed to government not to make the toll booth management initiative the only opportunity. So it suggests that they are actually going to manage it if the story in the Statesman is right.
Well, I don't know, but be it as it's made. I mean, graphic has a picture here. 74 persons with disability to collect road tolls. And inside they have somebody.
One of them in there.
Tools. So whatever it is, whether they are supposed to manage it or whether they are supposed to collect it, at least there's some job given to some people. And I think that's commendable. But you see, the problem that we have, Nana, in this country, and that is what sometimes I tend to buy into Ricky's kind of cynicism. I mean, these small things, small things, they don't work. Give 74 people road toll job or to manage, it's good. But the reality of the ground is that our social welfare system in this country does not work. It does not work. I'm a teacher. I teach. Do you know now we have moved from special education to inclusive education?
Right.
Inclusive education, whereby the classroom should be made conducive and comfortable for people with disabilities, where you have teachers who are trained to be able to teach both children who are in the mainstream and children who are challenged. But go to the classrooms and see, they don't have the material, they don't have the teachers. University of Education, Winneba happens to be one of the schools that is engaged in special education. Go there, we don't have the resources. You understand what I'm saying? You go to any government office, the Minister for Roads and Transport, who gave them roads and highways, go to the Roads and Highways Ministry and go and see whether it is disability friendly. What's the Highways Ministry?
No, it happened in the last regime.
you see, I mean, we need a comprehensive, sustainable welfare system in the country. 74 people have had jobs, fine.
There are over 200 more.
What 200? Millions. And when we say disability, right, there are so many different forms of disability. So many forms of disability. So I think we need to have a comprehensive welfare system. The Ministry of Women and Gender is, I mean, sometimes I find it a little bit worrying that you find some people, they'll give them, come on, we need something bigger, something sustainable, something that will more or less affect the nation.
I'm running out of time. Let me get Ricky to come in. Ricky, wrap up for me.
Well, simple and short, I think we need to ask the assemblies where the percentage that has been allocated for people with disabilities are, because everybody in this country is in an assembly. How many of them get that support? It's not as if it's much, but we need to ask questions about that. Secondly, there's a real issue involved with being in a toll booth if you are physically challenged. And 4 years or 8 years down the road, if there's a change of government, please, the IGP should make sure to deploy police people to these toll booths, because some people will be going to take over those toll booths. And these are brothers and sisters. It's a fact. It's a fact. But like I said, these are all knee-jerk responses. Nobody should read this to mean that we are not happy about a special initiative for them. But government should think far and deeper about these issues. There are public parks, there are tourist centers, which are more peaceful, which are more problematic. I mean, less problematic. For example, if a car loses its brakes and is running into that toll booth, basically you have sentenced that person to death by sitting. So please, let us rethink our initiatives.
Ricky. Can you see Ricky Pepra? I have to cut him. He's the founder of the Youth Enterprise Development Network.
You have a better chance of running.
I'm grateful, Kazisi, for your time. He is the founder of the Youth Enterprise Development Network. Grateful for your morning. Dr. Ahmed Chenapo is a lecturer, University of Education, Winneba. Grateful for your time too. Mr. David Wako is the group president of Wealth Vision Financial Services. Gentlemen, grateful for your Wednesday morning.